Well, our first show back, B got a little bit of a hiccup there, where all of a sudden my camera stopped working right at the beginning of the show,
I was just
and
like,
uh,
I was not prepared for that. I mean,
I have control of something.
usually if you drop off, like I can kind of see it coming. You like start breaking up. I just was like, oh, I didn't even know what to say. Hello,
Literally
everyone.
just sitting here playing the thing in where you're doing our countdown into our our intro, and all of a sudden I look down and I'm like, where's my camera at? I'm like, I don't know if Drew can hear me right now. My camera's gone. I'm like, let me see if I can fix this before it's too late. But hey, what's up, everyone? Welcome back. This is the Full Coverage Football Show. We are live here on Facebook, Twitter, our YouTube page. Basically, anywhere you get your pods, you can listen to a re-air of this show. My name is Jeremy. That's my boy, Drew. It's a big week for him. He's got a lot going on golf-wise. But tonight, we're here to talk football, brother. How are you doing this evening?
Good. It's good to be back. I know a lot has transpired in the National Football League since the last time that we've met. I actually can't even recall all the things that have happened. I'm sure you're probably the same. But it'll be good. Good to talk some pigskin. It's been a while, so I'm happy to be back.
It is good to be back, and let's think about how long this NFL offseason has already been. I mean, we're in the offseason here, and we're talking all kinds of law and order kind of stuff, which we're going to get into in a little bit. And we're not even talking the fact that Alvin Kamara beat the hell out of some dude, and that's still part of this offseason. And it doesn't feel that long ago.
And we got 6 months till real football.
Exactly.
Oh,
we're going to talk the big story. We're going to get into that, and that is the Deshaun Watson story, because it seems the entire NFL is somehow engrossed in this, whether it's his contract, the suspension, the obvious off-the-field issues he has, and the things going on with that, the fact that he got traded to Cleveland Browns, all of that we'll get into. But first, let's just get back into football here. I mean, Tyreek Hill got traded. We'll start with that. Let's just get into some other fun stuff before I kind of bring it down, because we have a full timeline of this Deshaun Watson situation, and some of it's going to suck, but we do full coverage here. We're going to talk about that. What do you think about the Tyreek Hill trade?
It all kind of transpired quickly from the original reports that they weren't going to come to a contract extension, and then within 2 or 3 hours he was gone. Listen, Miami and Mike McDaniel, they're now, I mean, clearly they're going with the speed element of things. You put him and Jalen Waddle together. I mean, look, it has the potential to be explosive, right? A couple things. The guaranteed money in the contract is a lot. And the compensation sent back to Kansas City is a lot. So I'm not against it. It's just like, to me, is Tyreek Hill the same player with Tua that Tyreek Hill was with Patrick Mahomes? And I tend to think that that's probably kind of unrealistic. But I do think that Miami will find interesting ways to utilize him. I know Mike McDaniel already said that he sees him in like a Deebo Samuel type role. Not sure Tyreek Hill's durability will be able to withstand the touches that a Deebo Samuel does. But I look, the Dolphins are going all in. If Tua can't succeed with the pieces around him, then he's not the guy. So I don't fault Miami. It's just a little too rich for my taste for a guy that's 28 years old, predicated off speed, which we know speed is something that you just don't have forever, right? So I don't hate the deal one way or the other, but I definitely feel like it was probably a little too pricey for my liking.
I'm with you on that. Maybe we're in the minority here, where I think the deal for Kansas City was they got the better part of the deal. I understand Tyreek Hill's a hell of a football player, but you have a lot of guys you got to pay. Chris Jones is the heart of that defense. You need to keep him. You got to pay that money. He's gotten his contract. He's going to have to get another one eventually. Pat Mahomes signed a massive deal, the 10-year, $504 million deal. That's kicking in. Travis Kelce is more important to that offense, in my opinion, than Tyreek Hill ever was. There are other guys you have to take care of. You've got to keep a offensive line around them. They're going with the franchise tag on Orlando Brown. You want to keep these guys to keep the franchise standing up. So eventually, they got Josh Gordon. I mean, Josh Gordon, listen, if he can flash back to 2013, you are going to see a player better than Tyreek Hill ever was. Unfortunately, it is 2022, and we are 10 seasons removed from the last time that Josh Flashback Gordon was any good. But for me, this is how you have to kind of, I mean, this is what you have to do when you're building around a massive quarterback contract at this point. We always say you got to try to build a team in those first few years before the massive contract comes in play. And once you get that contract in play, then maybe you got to cut certain corners to really make sure you're building around that number one piece in all of sports. The quarterback position is the number one piece in all of sports. And to keep Mahomes, you got to do this. And why not? You're going to have picks 28 and 29 or 29 and 30. I can't remember off the top of my head right now. In that first round, it's a deep wide receiver draft. Maybe you get a guy there. Maybe you rebuild your secondary there. And you get a guy like Sky Moore in the second round. They gave MVS some big money there in Kansas City. And that one shocked the hell out of me because I never thought he's a $12 million a year player. So what can he do with Pat Mahomes and Andy Reid? We'll see. Maybe it changes up.
Like
but I mean, he had Matt LaFleur and Aaron Rodgers.
QB. Yeah,
exactly.
Exactly.
I mean, does he get better in this situation? Is this a better fit for him? It's basically the same kind of setup in the offense. And then you got the jump balls, or you're not going to have Tyreek down there to just chuck the ball down to anymore and hope he runs up and catches it. For the Dolphins, I get it. You're trying to get people excited. You got a new offense. It's fast. And you have the money to do that right now because you don't have that quarterback contract. So it did. I do understand it for them, and I do see how it fits. But overall, I mean, I'm with Kansas City on this, even though I think Tyreek's a hell of a football player. And I like what they're doing down there. And Terran Armstead, that's a pretty good pickup for them. They didn't give him that much money. That's a pretty good deal for a stud left tackle. But now it's all on Tua, just like you said.
Yeah.
What do you expect? What kind of numbers are you expecting out of Tyreek Hill this year? I know it's a little early, but throw something out there.
I mean, he's going to eclipse 1,000 yards, especially in 17 games.
17 games, it's hard not to.
Yeah, I could see 1,250 yards and 8 touchdowns. I think that's being pretty reasonable one way or the other, right? I don't think it's too conservative. I don't think it's too aggressive. It's just hard. Like, again, it's just a whole different situation. I'm interested to see how they use Tua. This offense is going to have to be predicated on getting the ball out quick, getting guys in space. We know Tua is super accurate. So whatever you can do to kind of get the ball in space, that's what they're going to try to do. Whether that means 10 catches for 42 yards, it's certainly a possibility. But I think that's kind of how they're going to have to do it because, Tua hasn't proven that he essentially can push the ball downfield at an elite level at this point. So I think it's kind of where I'm at with it. 1258.
All right, let's get into some other things this offseason. What are some under the radar moves that maybe you've liked so far? I know we're switching things up from kind of what we talked about, but
yeah,
I'm not ready to get into the other stuff yet.
It's not a move in particular. It's just the Jacksonville Jaguars drunk spending money. It makes no sense to me. The Christian Kirk deal is incredible. And it ruined the wide receiver market for this offseason. It's just like, for me, it's like, I like what the Lions did with the DJ Chark move. Not a lot of money, 1 year kind of prove it deal coming off injury. And then I see so I was happy with them getting that deal done, especially with the way this market's gone.
Yeah.
The move to me that stands out the most is the Devontae Adams move. It again, so weird within a 7-day period that we essentially went from Tyreek Hill and Devontae Adams, two guys that you don't even imagine or picture playing with different quarterbacks, all of a sudden go. I think it was hilarious when Tyreek Hill was down to the Dolphins or the Jets. I'm like, man, be careful what you wish for. But I think the Devontae Adams move was probably personally my favorite move to get him out of the North. But just super interesting with all the back and forth of surrounding Aaron Rodgers with weapons offensively to kind of let Devontae Adams walk. I'm certain that Aaron Rodgers had to know something was going to happen because he wouldn't, the week before come out of retirement saying he's going to play for the Packers. Then they trade away his best weapon. So, but I think the Devontae Adams move is pretty. It was wild, and I don't know what I think about it as far as landing spot or, you know what I mean? That one caught me off guard for sure.
The AFC West right now is just thick with talent. Khalil Mack going to the Chargers, Devontae Adams to the Raiders. And that made sense to me in the fact that him and Derek Carr, they're boys. going back to Fresno State, those guys always get along. Devontae had a chance to stay with the Packers for supposedly more money, and he said, no, I want to go out. I get it. Go get that
Spread
money.
my wings.
Yeah, why not? See if you're that guy without Aaron Rodgers. And Aaron Rodgers right now is like, all right, let's see if I'm that guy with nobody, because right now Allen Lazard is his number one wideout. And I'm sure they're going to make moves. Hopefully this is the year we finally see him draft a guy in round one. If a Chris Olave's in there, or Drake London, if we see a guy like that, hopefully that guy will be a guy who can step in day one. But we know wide receivers don't always work out day one. We've had a lot lately that have worked out.
It's a deep class, though. It's a deep class at wide receiver. I think there's a lot of talent out there. So if you ever were Kansas City, and I heard Kansas City's been making phone calls and trying to trade for an upper echelon wide receiver, and same with Green Bay. So whether that comes to fruition or not, we'll wait to see. But even if it doesn't, especially with Kansas City and what they've acquired as far as draft capital, they're going to have kind of their pick of what they do. Do they let a guy slide to them? Do they want to go ahead and move up for a Drake London, Olave, really Garrett Wilson? It doesn't matter who's your guy, right? If there's one guy that they like, that they actually have the firepower to move up. But just a wild offseason of moves, I can't remember as many quarterbacks being traded, and it's just been a crazy offseason.
And we thought we were finally rid of Tom Brady, and then he's like, no, I'm coming back.
I'm happy about that, though. I think football's better with Tom Brady.
Unfortunately, it is.
Yeah. I know it sucks for everybody else. My team's not going to win anything, so Tom Brady playing for Tampa, it doesn't matter to me. But I think football is always going to be in a better spot when Tom Brady's playing.
And the first move you did mention was DJ Chark. And for anyone new to the show or watching right now, seeing the guy wearing the Detroit sweatshirt talk about the Lions getting DJ Chark and thinking it's a homer thing, it's not the way it works. He's been a big DJ Chark guy for a while, and he's definitely not a homer. But I'm big on that DJ Chark move as well. And to not sound like a homer, when I saw that Christian Kirk contract, it made me think, damn, Andrew Berry's a genius trading a fifth-round pick to get Amari Cooper at $20 million. I would much rather trade a fifth-round pick and keep Amari Cooper at $20 million than give $21 million a season to Christian Kirk. Like, Christian Kirk's a really good player.
But he's not Amari Cooper.
No. And for that price, for a guy who's never had 1,000 yards, whose best season was last season, I mean, he got hot at the right time. I get it going into a contract year, but that contract just seems absolutely drunk, as you said. The Jags have done a lot of things
behind the scenes still.
What's that?
Irvin's making the move still in Jacksonville. I mean,
Irvin, who
I don't know what they're doing.
Reportedly didn't even know who Aaron Donald was.
Right. I found it interesting, the signing they made today, for a simple draft look forward, right? Does this kind of put more doubt in Aiden Hutchinson going number one? I think it potentially could. They've made it's interesting because we thought that they were going to go with tackle, and then they've made multiple moves to kind of shore up the offensive line. We thought that they were going to go with Hutchinson as defensive end. They've signed multiple defensive ends. I mean, they've just signed anybody. It's almost like Madden. But how does that shake out as far as the draft's concerned? I'm guessing we'll find out in the next 30 days.
Except there's that kid in Madden who just, let's give this money to all the top players, no matter whether they fit or not. It's like Arden Key. Like, what kind of, is that just a wing and a prayer kind of thing, hoping this guy finally does the things he was expected to do? Or is it just depth? I don't understand how a lot of their moves work. Right. But it's all about, I understand building the lines. That makes sense. And I understand wanting to put out weapons for Trevor Lawrence. But I don't know. We'll see. It's hard. I don't know who the number one pick is right now. I think it's Hutchinson because they need a guy who can stop the run across from Josh Allen. But it's hard to say. And when you're talking wide receivers a second ago, it's hard to say who the number one wide receiver picked is because there's five guys.
In my opinion.
5 guys who could fit anywhere.
Yep.
And it's been a crazy offseason. We've had the Kamara thing started off, then Brady retires, and then he comes back. We've had all these moves where Russ got traded to the Broncos, and they're supposedly working on a new deal for him, but they're in no rush, just slowing it down. We got Drew Lock as the new head guy in Seattle, which don't know how that's going to work. But that's where DK Metcalf, we talked on our last show that DK Metcalf is that a guy that eventually can be on the move and a guy that maybe the Chiefs and the Packers look at. We shall see with that.
But under the Tyler Lockett's the guy that makes sense for me in Kansas City. more than DK Metcalf. I also, because I think Tyler Lockett is nowhere near as productive of a receiver without Russell Wilson. Patrick Mahomes does a lot of the same things that that Russell Wilson does as far as extending plays, things like that. I like the Lockett fit. I also think you can get him for a cheaper price tag than you would have to give up for DK Metcalf.
Absolutely, and we have a huge bit of breaking news here.
Oh.
Bruce Arians retiring from coaching, effective immediately. Defense coordinator Todd Bowles will be handpicked to replace him. Staff being told the news at this hour right now. So this crazy NFL offseason getting even a little bit crazier. So now Tom Brady comes back and Todd Bowles inherits that team. Okay. I did not see that one coming. I thought Bruce said he was pretty sure he's coming back. Is this a health thing possibly with Bruce, or did he just decide, you know what, maybe that tiff with him and Tommy really was something, and Tommy came back and pushed Bruce out? What kind of thing are you thinking right now? Are we going TMZ with this, or are we just thinking he's old and decided to walk away?
I think he's old.
Okay.
I mean, he's had health concerns for quite some time. It's not like this would be like a shocking development. I mean, the entire thing is a shocking development, but like the health aspect of it. I think Todd Bowles will do a damn good job, honestly. I mean, there's worse guys to be able to hand your team over to. So I'm interested to see it. But yeah, that's surprising.
This offseason, man, it's just crazier and crazier by the minute.
Yep.
And
no, I agree.
Every time you look at Twitter, every time you open your phone, every time you turn on the TV, every time you hear something NFL, it's even more crazy.
Yeah.
It's just getting crazier. And I guess now's the time we move into the biggest story, I feel like, of the offseason that we've been waiting for. How long? 18 months, 15 months, a year? I mean, forever.
We've talked about it a lot on this show. I mean,
we have. And most of the time we've talked about this, it's been, me trying to get Raj to do something about it. And it turns out, in the end, that Raj isn't even the one going to do anything about it. That they are handing it over to, oh man, I changed out my screen here and now I lost it. And okay, there we go.
Joe Biden.
Yes. NFL confirms a disciplinary officer in the Deshaun Watson investigation of violations of league personal conduct policy is former U.S. District Judge Sue L. Robinson. So she will be the one deciding the fate of Deshaun Watson, who we have talked about on this show forever.
It's Roger's league.
And Roger,
he's hiding, dude. He's hiding that's what he's doing. He's hiding. He doesn't want to make the decision.
Hey, Raj. Every segment on this show, every show, there's been a segment where I'm like, hey, Raj, what are we going to do about this? He did absolutely nothing last year. Yeah. And we know that it's probably going to be a 6-game suspension off the bat, because that's what Ben Roethlisberger got when he was actually charged in 2010, and then it was cut down to 4. So based on the league's personal conduct policy, it's probably going to be a 6-game suspension. But how did we get here? How did we get to this point? Well, let's go on a fun little trip down memory lane. So 2020, Deshaun Watson throws for 4,823 yards, 33 touchdowns, 7 interceptions for a garbage Bill O'Brien-led Houston Texans team.
No DeAndre Hopkins.
We're like, okay, this team is just a joke. They're garbage, and Bill O'Brien's terrible, but Deshaun Watson's a hell of a quarterback. And at that time, we were probably thinking, okay, this guy's probably a top 5, top 3, maybe even quarterback. So we come to January 28th, 2021. And all of a sudden, out of nowhere, we hear Deshaun Watson wants out of Houston. And we're like, all right, that's huge news. That's big news when a young quarterback who was, he's 26 now. That was a year or so ago. So he was 24, 25 at the time. When a guy in the top 5 at quarterback wants out, that's huge news. I'm like, okay, what the hell is going on? Why does he want out all of a sudden? And then on March 16th, less than a month and a half later, we hear attorney and former self-provided mayor candidate Tony Busby, who loves his name out there, so this is a bad start for this lawsuit. He announces that he has clients filing suit of sexual assault allegations against Deshaun Watson. And this is when everything kind of goes crazy. Now, the first allegation goes all the way back to March 30th, which is what? 2 years ago. 2 years ago today, actually.
Today.
Was the earliest of the date of accusations, where he went to the home of a massage therapist that he hit up on Instagram, and he opened up his towel and said, "Hey, look at it. I want you to touch it. But hey, I don't want anything, I don't want to have anything go bad for your name. I don't want anything bad for my career. Let's just let this sweep under the rug." And he later hit her up on Instagram and said, "Hey, I'm sorry." So this is the first of the accusations. And then it just gets crazier from there. Let me pull up my notes. And this is the guy who, I might as well play this. If we're talking to Deshaun Watson, let's get some Law and Order SVU theme song going in here before we get turned off of Facebook or anywhere else. Let's get into the other stuff. So we're at March 16th, 2021. That's when the first of the lawsuits comes out, led by Tony Buzbee. So we get into that. March 17th, 2 new cases filed of 2021. On March 18th, the NFL, this is 2 days after, the NFL opens up their investigation into Watson. So this is the point where they start opening up the investigation. It's the point where on this show, for anyone who's watched it week by week, we started, "Hey, Raj, what are you going to do about this?" This is where maybe the commissioner's exempt list comes into handy. On March 22nd, Buzbee files 7 more cases. March 23rd, Watson's lawyer accuses women of attempting blackmail, which not a good look immediately off the bat, because sexual allegations are something in the cancel culture that you really want to start pushing against the victims too early. So it makes Deshaun Watson look pretty bad. March 29th, the suit alleges Watson deleting Instagram messages. So we're already into his stuff there. 18 massage therapists then come out 2 days later and defend Watson. So at this point, you're thinking this guy's had about 40 massage therapists. You're thinking, okay, something's kind of sketchy here. But I get it. Maybe it takes a little bit of time to find the one you really like.
Balls.
April 2nd, 2021. Watson is under police investigation. April 5th, the 22nd case is officially filed by Tony Buzbee. At this point, 2 women go public with Watson accusations. Nothing from the NFL. Watson loses multiple endorsement deals by April 7th. April 8th, his lawyer files motions for the plaintiffs to basically identify themselves, and the judge will then later say, "Hey, if you want to do anything about this, you have to file individual cases." So we're still in April of 2021, and at this point, the NFL's had about a month, right? We're about a month into it, where the NFL's supposedly been able to start getting information on it. 20 women then ID themselves in court filings, and then another woman files suit against Watson on April 14th. By April 15th, all 22 had identified themselves and had been in court at some point to go against Deshaun Watson. Now, during this, his attorney is filing a 7-page legal response, and the NFL still, with all this information, has done absolutely nothing. Deshaun Watson's still asking for trade, and there's still teams looking to trade for him. And also at this point, Baker Mayfield is supposedly the franchise quarterback for the Cleveland Browns after leading them to their first playoff victory in 35,000 years. So that's what we're looking at as of April last year. This is how much things change. By May of 2021, the attorney for the Texans owner, Cal McNair, tries to mediate things. And we know Deshaun and Cal McNair weren't getting along very well, and this goes absolutely nowhere, possibly making things worse. Official complaints are up to 10 by July. The NFL then, July 27th, we're about training camp time. He doesn't want to be in Houston. He wants to get out of there as far as possible. And all these lawsuits are still going up in Houston. And the NFL says, no restrictions on Deshaun Watson. Go ahead and go to training camp. Everything's fine.
That was awkward, by the way.
And he's like, I don't want to be here, but I don't want to be fined $50,000 a day.
Right. It was just, the whole thing was awkward.
So we're getting really awkward here, as if it hasn't been awkward enough. We're still August of 2021. Watson's met with the FBI, but not the NFL. Hey, Raj, what are we doing here, Raj, at this point? So October 20th, we're starting to really build into the trade deadline. We're thinking, okay, Carolina's going to look into him. Carolina's a perfect fit for him. Drew Brees retired. Jameis Winston got hurt. Maybe it's the Saints who do something for him. We're looking at all these teams, maybe the Eagles, and they want to move on from Jalen Hurts. By November 2nd, nothing. We find out, hey, nothing's going to change until the offseason. And at this point, you and I are probably sick of talking about it. And we're still November. Just before the trade deadline, Roger Goodell says, league is still determining if Watson should go on the commissioner's exempt list. We are 6 to 7 months in, and he still hasn't done anything at this point. And for those of you who are bored with this, I'm sorry, but we got to listen, everyone else is talking about exactly what's happening. We're doing the full timeline to show what a joke this whole situation has been.
Right.
And for those who don't know, I'm a Browns fan, so this gets really messed up for me. So we know the trade's not happening.
Not like it's any more messed up than your life's already been with the Browns,
not at all. But I'm on this show every week saying, I don't want him. Whoever trades for him, they got to be ready for everything that's going to go down. And we knew wherever he got traded, it was going to be a mess. So from November until March, it's really quiet. We knew the accusations were there. We knew that he was probably going to get traded. March 8th, 2022, the grand jury decides they're going to meet March 11th regarding Watson. March 11th, they decide he will not face any criminal charges. And that is when everyone in the NFL, 12 teams from what I'm told, including my team, your team, almost any team who doesn't have a pretty damn good quarterback says, you know what? If there's no criminal charges, we're willing to put our name out there and try to get this guy, and we'll try to rebuild his reputation. So then all of a sudden, 5 teams are in. We hear the Texans want to deal with, who was it? The Saints, the Falcons, the Panthers, the Browns, and who's the other team I'm missing here? Either way, it was another team. So we find out remember. It's so much crap has happened in a year's time.
Exactly.
And March 17th, he decides, all right, I'm out on the Cleveland Browns. First team he knocks out. And then Kyle Pitts is getting all excited because it sounds like to the Atlanta Falcons that he's decided he's going to Atlanta. He's going home. Cue the music, cue the LeBron style I'm coming home montage. Deshaun Watson's going to Atlanta. So that's when I start getting information on this. And someone tells me, hey, he's not so sold on Atlanta.
Why would you be?
He really got along with Andrew Berry. He doesn't want to move. He wanted 3 things. He wanted to stay in the South, basically, or a dome. He wanted to get paid, and he wanted a chance to win the Super Bowl. And when you look at the teams in the South, Falcons, Saints, Panthers, these teams, not necessarily Super Bowl rosters. So he's like, you know what, maybe I shouldn't have thrown the Browns out so soon. So he wakes up March 18th and tells his agent, listen, I think the Browns are the team for me. I love Kevin Stefanski. I love Andrew Berry, and I think they have the best roster, which out of those teams, believe it or not, the Cleveland Browns do have a pretty damn good roster. So he says, hey, I want to go there. And then all of a sudden, 5 years, $230 million later, fully guaranteed money, Deshaun Watson's a Cleveland Brown for the low, low price of 2022, 2023, 2024 first-round picks, a 2022 4, a 2023 3, and a 2024 4. 6 picks traded for Deshaun Watson. 5 years, $230 million given to this man, all guaranteed. And then everyone freaks out when the contract details come out because he's only getting paid $1.035 million in 2022, which everyone then assumes, it's so he doesn't get a huge financial loss when he's suspended. Now, from the outside looking in, not knowing anything else, yeah, it kind of looks like they did that. Oh, this is why he wanted to go to Cleveland. It's because he's getting all guaranteed money. Let's not fucking kid ourselves here, boys and girls. Let's face the facts. All these teams would have done the same damn thing because when you're the NFL, there's only one thing that matters to you, and that's winning and making money. That's the same thing. If you're winning, you're making money. If you're making money, you're probably winning. And all these teams would have done the same thing. Now, would they have guaranteed all $230 million? I don't know, but a lot of teams were mad. 2 of the teams, at least, were mad that Deshaun's agent didn't call and give them the chance to match that contract. But Deshaun didn't want to go there, so now he's a Cleveland Brown. So now, me, as a guy who said on March 17th to anyone who would listen, I'm glad he doesn't want to come here because I don't want him here because I've got 2 daughters who I want to become football fans. Will they ever become football fans? Probably not. But my hopes were that
It wasn't Deshaun Watson's fault that they're not football
Deshaun
fans.
Watson's fault. Not at all. But if they're going to root for the Cleveland Browns, I want them to at least have a chance to root for a guy who wasn't accused of this. Now, this is where it gets weird because I understand the fact that he's not being criminally charged. So if we all believe in due process in the court of law, the guy's gone through the legal process and we understand he's clear and he's free to work. He's free to make his money. He's free to be the Cleveland Browns quarterback. But sexual assaults in these cases are so hard to prove because it's basically a he said, she said situation unless you have video proof or anything else or a key witness who can say they were in that room and saw exactly what happened.
Right.
So as a Cleveland Browns fan, football-wise, what do I think about this? I think football-wise, it's a fantastic move for the Cleveland Browns. Now, the fact that they came out and repeatedly had to say they were comfortable with Deshaun as a person, but never fully saying they believed he was innocent, I think that still says that they are afraid of what may still come based on the civil suits. But as a Cleveland Browns fan, I'm completely torn on this because this is a guy who comes off as a decent human being for the most part. And even while he was not playing, he was doing things for Deshaun Watson Foundation and making money and supporting children who needed things. And then you've got all this. And while 22 cases seems extreme, and maybe some of these people did want money, we can say that's possible. I'm not saying that's what's happening. I'm saying it's a possibility. Where there's smoke, there's usually fire.
And yes. I would say it's probable that some of them were in it for money.
Mm-hmm.
But with 22, it's also probable that some of them are telling the truth, right? Like,
yes.
We're talking 24 people, essentially. So it's not like just a couple people or like when you have 22 people, it's hard to say that, you know, it's not something there, right? And like, yeah, to your point, like I remember watching the video of Deshaun Watson giving his game check to some cafeteria lady in Houston. All things we heard forever, even the draft process and Dabo talking about how great of an individual he was.
The Michael Jordan of football.
Yeah, like that was the thing. Like that's what also made this so shocking is because everything you've been led to believe about Deshaun Watson isn't necessarily what it is, right? And so it was very shocking. I mean, if I'm a Browns fan, you got to be happy, right? Listen, the other thing is this. You don't win football games with choir boys, right? People may or may not want to hear it, and I'm not condoning any behavior from Deshaun Watson. I think we're both are clear on our stance.
You're just telling the truth, man.
Right. It's just that's the way it is, right? I mean, think of it. I know it's a different situation, but your running backs had issues, right? Like time heals all wounds.
Pick the dude right? Here in this town, and then you bring him downtown back to this town.
Yeah, and it's like for me, it's tough because like time heals all wounds, winning heals all wounds, right? That's just the way it is. So over time, Deshaun Watson will win football games, and he'll probably win his fair share of them because he's that good. That'll make things kind of go away. But to act like it's just not surprising to me, right? We see this all the time. We've seen this across the league. Like Tyreek Hill just got traded. Do you think he's a good guy? No, probably not, right?
A woman who is 8 months pregnant.
Yeah, you know, allegedly, potentially broke his kid's arm. Like,
yet when he was traded, no one talked about that because it's already been gone, swept under the rug.
Yeah. So again, and I think it's probably unfair, but give this 12, 18 months and nobody's talking about this anymore. Once you start winning games and you know why? Because the next guy will beat the shit out of a woman, or the next guy will fucking drive drunk and kill people, or the next, there's always something, right? Like there's always something that's going to happen.
Drew, we started the show off basically by saying no one remembers Alvin Kamara beating the shit out of a guy to start this offseason.
Right. No, I'm
and
not
that's less than
laughing,
2 months ago.
but
We're not
it seems
talking
like
8 months ago
like
when
3
Henry
years ago,
Ruggs,
doesn't it?
exactly. Henry Ruggs, like you said, drove drunk and killed a human being and her dog.
And her dog. Yeah.
And we're not talking about that anymore. It's all Deshaun Watson right now. And I understand that because of the amount of cases against him. And Deshaun, there's a lot of Browns fans who are like, I can't root for this team anymore. Yet Browns fans, that's so hypocritical of you in a way because you're rooting for the Cleveland Browns who have a statue of Jim Brown outside of the stadium. And you look at this man as the greatest running back of all time.
Bad dude.
And he's a horrible human being.
Yep.
He threw a woman off of a balcony and threatened her to the point that she told the cops, I fell. You don't fall from a balcony and expel yourself 15 feet from the goddamn hotel room unless you're jumping that way. And then for Cleveland Browns fans who are completely okay with it, you're also hypocrites if you're 100% okay with it because you spent 18 years calling a quarterback from Pittsburgh Ben Rapistsberger.
You just
Either
have
way,
to,
in Cleveland,
you have to have perspective of the whole situation.
Exactly.
You have to. It's not. You're not a terrible person if you root for the Browns because Deshaun Watson's your quarterback. Because you and I are the same way. I root for the name on the front, not the name on the back, right?
100%.
And so I don't have to agree with all the people. Like it's way worse when people see Ray Rice's video, right? People always have a shitty thought process of Ray Rice. But there's a running back that plays in the same state down south that punched the shit out of a woman in college. Nobody talks about that anymore. Again, time heals all wounds. And there will be more cases of guys doing bad stuff. Trust me, this offseason is just getting started. If you don't think there's going to be arrests and crazy shit that happens in the next 4 or 5 months, then you don't understand. You don't follow the NFL. It's just this is the way it is. Right or wrong, good or bad, like you shouldn't feel like, okay, hey, I can't be a fan of this team because they have a bad person on it. Well, you should do more research on the people that were on the team previously and their track records. Like these aren't good people. I'm not saying they're all bad people, but I'm saying not all of them are good people.
It's the facts of the NFL these days. It's the facts of all sports forever. Because Ty Cobb is looked at as one of the greatest baseball players of all time. One of the worst human beings put on this earth ever. Some of the things that man did.
I don't want to. I'd say like 85% of those old school baseball players were just dicks, dude. They're just bad people.
But Ty Cobb was unbelievably bad. Like
you're right.
Reading
Ty
the
Cobb
things growing up about Ty Cobb.
No doubt.
Because I was like, oh, Ty Cobb's a really good baseball player. I want to know more about him. And then I learned more about him, and I learned, oh, shit. Little Jerry doesn't need to be reading about this stuff.
Wish I didn't know more.
Yeah. And meanwhile, people are getting kicked out of baseball. We won't even get into that. But this is the conversation we really need to have. Because there are victims in this case, whether he sexually assaulted them or not. If they feel that way, you become a victim. And I understand that it may not be proven in a court of law. And I do give credit to them for standing up, for coming out, because it's something that is impossible to do, especially in this day and age with social media. Because there are people on social media who are already calling these women whores and sluts, and they want money and all this stuff because they're Deshaun Watson fans. And there's people going after Deshaun Watson for the same exact reason, opposite ways, obviously. It's just such a mess that we can look at sports and know that you're 100% right, knowing the first time this man throws for 400 yards and 5 touchdowns against the Pittsburgh Steelers,
he'll have that.
Deshaun's going to lead us to the Super Bowl. He got his back
from Rocket Mortgage. They'll have a mural across from Rocket Mortgage. Right? Like that's just the way it'll work. And like in the press conference, which was terrible, but it was always going to be terrible because there's only so many things that they can say. Right? Like it was always going to be awkward. It was always Cleveland was never going to walk away from that press conference winning anybody over. And all this does is bring up people thinking shitty about him, or people that have had past things happen to them. They relive these situations. This runs deeper than football. But when you're Andrew Berry and you're the Haslams and you're the Browns organization, you're making a business decision to win football games, and everybody's feelings are left out in the cold. Whether that's right or wrong, that's up to you. It's wrong in my opinion, but I understand the business that is the NFL. So I don't want to say that I think it's great that somebody signed him, but you know what? If it wasn't the Browns, it was going to be the Panthers. It was going to be the Eagles. Let's not act like he wasn't going to go somewhere. It was going to be Atlanta. We need to kind of take things into perspective here. Just because you root for the Browns doesn't mean you condone Deshaun Watson for being an absolute scumbag. And I think that people need to draw the difference between the two. You can say that, hey, I'm not rooting for this team anymore, and that's fine. That's your call, right? You're clearly allowed to do that. But at the same time, as hard as it may be at times, you have to draw the difference between business and the actual people they're employing, right? And it's a slippery slope for a lot of people, and I think you and I have come to follow this league enough to know that like you have to be able to draw that line. You can't get personal with what you see and the moves organizations make, because these are the same moves that are propelling your franchise to success, which is all you've bitched about for 50 fucking years. That's all you've cared about. But now we do something for success, but you don't like the optics of it. Well, which one is it? Which one is it? Because you can't have it both. You got to understand the difference of what we're doing here, would be what I would say.
Couldn't have said it any better myself, but you are 100% right, because that is the cold, hard truth of the way this thing works. And Rhonda, you're not a fan, or you've been a fan since 1980, and you say you're done. And I'll buy that.
Listen, if Rhonda's that, and that's fine, right? Like we get to choose who our allegiance is through, but it's going to suck when the Browns start winning. You sat around since 1980 to watch this dumpster fire of a franchise. But now when they start winning, it's going to be like, okay, and you stick up for your values. Anyone could be a fan. Anybody could not be a fan, right? Like I've lived through misery. We both lived through misery. Like this has to be like the podcast of like the two most miserable franchises, right? We both root for teams that are absolute dumpster fires. I should have walked away from the Lions long ago. It had nothing to do with crimes. They're just terrible. But yeah, I mean, if she doesn't want to be a fan, I get it. Like, again, this whole situation rubs people different ways, right? Like it impacts people from multiple different perspectives. And I think for me, and I don't want to speak out of line, I think it definitely hits home harder with the woman fan of the team than it does the male fan. Just because of the situation, right? Like it's a scary, it's a messed up situation. So I get it, right? Like I get it. But the problem is who do you go root for? Because there's a bunch of scumbags on those teams too.
Yeah, you can say, hey, I'm going to go root for Cincinnati because they're in state. I'm going to go root for Cincinnati because they're in state. Let's say that team's pretty messed up too. You can go anywhere, just like you said. They're all down. And let's see what Rhonda has to say. Rhonda says it's not just this. It's been years of crap. Deshaun is not the only reason. And I understand that.
Decades of crap. Decades of crap. And I get it.
There's a lot of people who said,
come on over and be a Lions fan, Rhonda. There's like 3 of us in existence. We'd love to have you.
She's a Michigan woman, so maybe she just heads back home
with
the allegiances. Go back home, Rhonda. Go back home.
If you want to see 5 wins, we're the team for you, Rhonda.
How many years are you getting those 5 wins?
I don't even know anymore. I don't even fucking whatever. But you know what? I'll tell you one thing. I was the first person to say the Detroit Lions should be on the phone making this exact same offer the Browns made. And do I think he's a scumbag? Absolutely. But at some point you have to put your nuts on the table and go after something, right?
You do.
At least pick up the phone and start dialing, right? See what they want. If he's not interested, but see, here's the thing. Everybody's like, he'll never come to Detroit. Well, he went to Cleveland. Let's you know what I mean? Let's not act like you guys are some great flashy city.
No, only our roster is good right now. It's pretty damn good. That's it. It wasn't the city. He's not like, you know what? I want to freeze my balls off in the morning, be hot in the afternoon, and then freeze my balls off again at night. That's what I really like. I love the weather.
Yeah, I love the potholes, right?
Dude, listen, there's nothing like the stank smell of Lake Erie first thing in the morning. It's like an ocean breeze mixed with a dump sometimes. Okay, listen, I love Cleveland.
Mixed with dead carp smell.
But it's not beautiful, like in some points. It's the way it is. Now, the problem is that so many people we're such extremes anymore in this world. Like, well, I have to be all the way this way, and if you like Deshaun Watson, or if you're going to root for the Browns, then you're automatically a sexist and you're cool with what he did. That's not the way it is. You hit it dead on with what you said about how there are garbage people on every single franchise in this league. And there's a difference between knowing what's good for business and knowing how you're going to win. And sometimes those worlds collide in the worst possible ways, but you're going to get good results from them. And the Browns right now are closer to winning a Super Bowl than they ever have been in any Cleveland Browns fan's life. In a loaded AFC, the roster is good enough on both sides of the football where if they would have had decent quarterback play last year, the Cincinnati Bengals never would have made the playoffs. They just needed average quarterback play. And as we're talking Browns quarterbacks, I have something to say about Baker Mayfield. Baker Mayfield, in this town, you're always going to be a legend. You always will be for the Jets game alone, for coming in and reigniting the franchise the way you did. However, you never got better. You never learned from your own mistakes, and all the scapegoats were finally gone to the point that the blame fell on you, and you never improved from the things that you struggled with coming out of Oklahoma. Now, Baker can be a very good quarterback going forward, but he has to look in the mirror and rebuild himself. And as we move on from the Deshaun Watson situation, because I just don't even want to deal with it anymore to a certain extent, we have two quarterbacks that are still out there waiting for those last quarterback dominoes to fall, in Baker Mayfield and Jimmy Garoppolo. Drew, I ask you, where does Jimmy Garoppolo end up?
San Francisco.
Think he stays?
Yeah.
$25 million. They got the money for it.
Look at there's limit. There's not spaces for people to go anymore, right? Mm-hmm. The dominoes have all kind of fallen. Which is why I think Baker Mayfield essentially ends up getting cut, or you toss a fifth rounder at him, and that's it. Which is where I think is where the Lions come into play. Hell, bring him in, have a 1 year. I mean, essentially, it's him and Goff for a year, and then at that point, Goff's off the books. Baker be off the books. You can kind of figure out what you want to do. But yeah, I mean, listen, all the spots. My favorite thing was when the report of Carolina came out. Carolina disinterested, Baker Mayfield disinterested in Carolina. It's like, well, okay.
What people need to realize about the Baker situation is he doesn't have the no trade clause. Wherever they send him, he goes.
Yeah, but the other thing you have to understand is the Browns just ruined all value that was potentially there with Baker.
Yeah.
They eviscerated all the potential value. So now they're going to end up either cutting him or they're going to end up just giving him away. So it's just fucking crazy, dude. This time last year, you were, we're going to the Browns, we're going to Super Bowl, Super Browns. And now, like,
Super Bowl,
everybody hates Baker here. I mean, I don't want to say they hate Baker, but like, it's almost like you brought a girl that was a 6 out of 10 to the dance, and then you saw Deshaun Watson. Well, you know, he's been sleeping around, but he's a 9.5, and you just ditched Baker at the door, and you just went and started dancing with Deshaun. Life comes at you fast, man.
It does. And that's why I threw in when we did the Deshaun timeline there. That's why I had to throw in that people thought Baker was a $30 million a year quarterback at that time. And going into this offseason, what did you feel like if the Browns would have traded Baker Mayfield going into this offseason? What did you feel his value was? I didn't think his value was that high going into this offseason. Maybe a third round pick.
First-round pick for him.
You think they would have got a first?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
I don't feel that way.
Going into last year?
No, going into this offseason right now.
Oh, okay.
Going into last year, yeah, he was a top 10 QBR quarterback. I mean, he's not that far removed from that guy.
I still think they could have got a second-round pick for him. I mean, listen, dude, it's a quarterback, right? Like
it is.
I think a lot of people have chalked up his season last year, whether it's right or wrong, for injury. Kevin Stefanski being completely inept and not knowing what he's doing as a coach, which we don't talk about. He was terrible last year. Just like so you want to say, okay, there's these outlying factors that, you know, made Baker Mayfield not play well, and injury was certainly one of them. But I still think as a team that will take a flyer on Marcus Mariota, who we know is just not very good. Like, Like people like will take flyers on quarterbacks. It doesn't matter.
Mhm.
The quarterback's value is always higher than it actually is.
Yeah.
Like we perceive the quarterback's value being here, but teams, organizations that have had a quarterback in 20 years, they perceive his value to be way higher, and they're willing to take the risk. They're willing to throw a second and a fourth to go obtain a guy like that. Which now I just think that Cleveland's just handcuffed in, painting themselves into a corner where they don't have a choice. Everybody knows Baker has no value, and Cleveland has no leverage. And so teams are just going to sit back and wait. And then once he gets cut, or until they move off his price, which they will, then that's when teams will come in and go for him. But that's just the way it's going to work. But yeah, I still think even going into this year, a lot of people said that, hey, listen, he was hurt. We can, we give him credit for playing injured, right? He was tough. He was hard-nosed. And so I think teams would have thrown a second and a fourth or something along those lines at you. But now it's like, we're not giving you shit. We'll wait till you have to give him up.
See, I didn't feel Baker's injury was the reason for his poor play last year. Watching the games, Baker went back to everything that he was bad at coming out of Oklahoma. So many times he would ignore the play given to him, and he would try to instead make a deep play, make something flashy, do something like that, rather than accept what the defense was giving him. And he would take sacks. He would get the ball batted down. There were a lot of issues. And I will say Stefanski wasn't perfect, but I'm not going to give him the full blame.
Shit coaching was part of it too.
Stefanski got a team with terrible quarterback play to 8 and 9.
It was both, right? It went hand in hand. Because what Baker does well, Stefanski refused to do. Like the ball wasn't coming out of his hands quickly. The ball was being forced downfield in stupid situations in multiple coverage. When Stefanski knew that you make things simple, you get the ball out quick, his accuracy numbers are way better, the turnovers are way down, and you work the running game. What this clown Stefanski did down the stretch, they didn't even run the ball. They didn't even run it.
They didn't run it enough, no, but they ended up running it the exact same amount of time as they did the year before. And the funny thing is, we're both saying the same thing, but we're putting the blame on different people to a certain extent. Because you're saying he's not getting rid of the ball quick, or Stefanski wasn't calling plays for him to get rid of the ball quick enough. I'm saying Baker held on to the ball.
I refuse to talk about my future star quarterback.
And listen, even after the way I think he played last year, I was a Baker guy coming out 100%. I love what Baker did in his rookie season. I love what he did to lead him to the playoffs in 2020. I still think Baker Mayfield can be a very good quarterback in the NFL. Now, my problem with Baker Mayfield is this guy, the swaggy dude that we see, the baller, the chip on his shoulder guy. Is that the real Baker Mayfield? Or is Baker Mayfield a little softer than we thought? Because when he asked for the trade before the Deshaun Watson deal was official, that bothered me. Because this is a guy who supposedly is a hard-nosed, I'll battle anyone and kick their ass guy. And then as soon as you knew they didn't kind of want you, you wanted out. And you had hated on other guys for doing that. Kind of a hypocritical thing. But Baker Mayfield's still going to be a solid quarterback in this league. Where that ends up, I'm still holding on to Seattle as the best spot for him because they're going to look at Drew Lock and go, yeah, we got to do something better than this here. And while you still got the talent out there, if you still got DK on that roster, if you still got Tyler Lockett on that roster, you got to stick with something better than Drew Lock. Because we saw what Drew Lock is, and Drew Lock has never shown us anything. At least Baker Mayfield has shown us something. And if you're going to have one swaggy white boy, you might as well add another quarterback. Why not? And let them battle out, and Baker will destroy Drew Lock.
Yes.
But enough of that. Let's get into some good news. Hard Knocks this year is going to Detroit to watch the most fantastically fun head coach in the entire NFL, Dan Campbell, the leader of Drew's Detroit Lions. Hard Knocks is going to be pretty good. You're going to get 6 episodes to see the inner workings of your team. You excited about this?
You know what, I am. And I'm not usually a Hard Knocks guy, right?
Mm-hmm.
I can say I've probably seen 4 to 5 episodes ever. It's hard to kind of get into it when it's not really your team, or if it's the Cowboys and it's just boring as hell. It's just a bunch of flashy, hey, look at what we have crap. But this is, I think, I mean, come on. Between Dan Campbell and just his enthusiasm and just like being like, it's going to be extremely entertaining. And I also think it's good because this team, A, loves their coach and it's just kind of like building. And so you're going to kind of see how it looks on a day-to-day basis. I think if there was ever a year, and I know that Lions fans have been dying to have Hard Knocks, because essentially what you have to be is a shitty team, but your coach can't be a rookie, right? And so this was the first opportunity for the Lions under Dan Campbell to be on Hard Knocks. I think it'll be super entertaining. I'll definitely tune in. And it's kind of one of those things that, keep the juices flowing in the offseason. So it'll be good, and I look forward to it.
Yeah, I'm excited about it. When the Browns were on Hard Knocks, what I like about it is you get to see who these guys really are, and you get to see the good guys, because they really do show the good part of the NFL players. And we've said so much bad about NFL players, but the truth of the matter is it's probably 85-15. I would say 85% of the league is pretty good dudes. 15% are pretty much pieces of shit. And that's the truth of the matter. And for the Browns fans, the first year Jarvis Landry was here was the year they had Hard Knocks. And Jarvis Landry, and the reason he is always going to be loved here in Cleveland, is the damn speech he gave in the wide receiver room. You saw the fire. You saw how he wanted to push this team who was just garbage and wanted them to be more than what they were. You're going to see guys like that. You're going to get, these undrafted guys. You're going to really root for making the team. The storylines they do, it's excellent. Hard Knocks going there. It's going to be great. You're going to get to see some fun players. You're going to see there's a guy on your team, Jerry. It'll pop in my head later on, but he's a young kid. He was an undrafted rookie last year. Corner.
Jerry Jacobs. Seatbelt.
Jerry Jacobs. Nice kid. He's going to be a lot of fun to watch on there. I hope they give him some storylines. Jared Goff's going to be boring as hell, and that's what I need to expect from him. But Dan Campbell, what he's going to do basically is
people are going to love Dan Campbell after this.
He is going to set himself up. That's a great question by Kyle Anderson. We'll get to that in a second. But Dan Campbell is going to set himself up for a great television career after he gets fired from the Lions at some point, is what's going to happen. Hey, all our coaches get fired. It happens. The fact that he's got a second year, we're doing pretty well when our guys get 2 years. Drew, I asked you a question that I thought of. Kyle Anderson had nothing to do with this. Now I got to give Kyle credit. Kyle Anderson asked, for those listening on the pod, will the Lions have more or less wins than episode of Hard Knocks this year? It's 6 episodes, I believe, of Hard Knocks. What's your over-under?
More.
We're going over-under 6? You think they're going to have more wins?
Yeah. Not like tons more.
Around 7 and 10?
I think they win 8 or 9 games.
Wow. Okay.
And now I'm saying this before the draft and everything unfolds, so I do hold the opportunity to pivot off of my my decision here.
No,
but yeah, I
March,
definitely.
Let me write this down. March 30th, 8:59 p.m.
8 or 9 wins.
I am going to take the under. I think they're a 5-6 win team. I mean, I like what they're doing, and they played tough last year. But are they good enough? Is that quarterback good enough to get them wins when it comes down to it? I guess that's what we'll find out.
I think Baker can get it done.
I hope Baker goes there. I think that'd be great, and I can still root for Baker, and then I can get a Honolulu blue jersey and hang it up, because right now, my back door, rather than buying a curtain, I just hung up a Baker Mayfield jersey over top of the window because I'm a hillbilly and I'm fat and my whole jersey covers the window. But yeah, I might have to get one in Honolulu blue. Now,
it's 100% light restricting.
I just wanted something to cover it in case I'm by the back door and someone's trying to look in, but I wasn't worried about anything else. Now, more exciting news for Detroit as the 2024 draft is headed to Detroit. Are you excited about that? It's going to be on the river, I heard.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I know we're a couple years away, but I'm certain my cousin and I will be in Detroit for that one.
Nice.
I did miss the one here in Cleveland. I was on a golf trip. But yeah, listen, man, I think it's great for the city. As we know, kind of here is it's tough because you just never kind of know what the weather's going to be.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, listen, man, Detroit's Super Bowl is the draft. Cleveland's is the same for the most part, even though it won't be anymore because you gave all your picks away. But yeah, it'll be great. It's good momentum for the city. I think anybody that's been downtown Detroit in the last handful of years has seen kind of how cool downtown really is. Same with Cleveland, by the way. Downtown Cleveland, fantastic. Go a little bit outside of it, not so much, but downtown and downtown Detroit, it'll be good, and I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, I got nothing but good things to say about Detroit when I was there. You know, I was downtown. I was ridiculously inebriated, and I had a great time.
Yeah.
And I wandered my ass from some random Irish bar into Ford Field and then back and wandered around some areas that I probably should not have been in and decided to talk to a bunch of people that I probably should not have talked to. But you know what?
Came back alive.
I came back alive. I didn't go too far out of my comfort zone or my safety zone, so I made it back. But yeah, I absolutely give credit to Detroit for what it really is. And for anyone knocking Detroit, you haven't probably been there or you made a wrong turn. Because there are a lot of cities like that. Like, I love St. Louis, Missouri, but you turn the wrong way out of Busch Stadium. Yeah, you better turn around.
There's legitimately across from Comerica Park some sketchy ass Section 8 housing places that I park my car just for free parking. Where I was honestly concerned the car would be gone when I got out of the game. But it wasn't. So
are we talking about in your younger days, like when you probably didn't have that nice a ride? Or are we talking like you had a decent ride at the time?
Yeah, it's been more recent than I did than not, right? No matter how old you are, if you could save $40 on parking, yeah, you might take the risk. Yeah, so
I understand.
It's been since 2017 or after. I'll say that. So I wasn't that young, but yeah, I mean, again, all cities have their good and bad things, and I think unfortunately the two that we associate with, and I live in Cleveland now, they get a bad rep, and just the way it is, right? Like everybody, who the hell would want to go to Detroit? Who the hell want to go to Cleveland? I'm not saying book a flight here for vacation.
Summertime, maybe.
Yeah, but each city has their good things about it.
What city, you're a well-traveled man, what city did you go to and think, wow, this is an absolute dump? Has there been a city like that?
Yeah. Well, I don't want to say Flint, Michigan is not a great spot.
Okay.
Flint, Michigan is known as like Little Detroit.
Yeah.
Without the cool things of Detroit, like the sports and the theater, like Flint, Michigan's sketchy. But really all the other cities that I've been to for the most part have been good. I mean, Tucson, Arizona, sketchy in parts. But again, like I feel like this is what we say for most cities. Like there's sketchy areas in most cities, like, right? Like there's a giant population in a majority of these cities, and there's going to be bad places.
Similar to the NFL, 85-15.
Well done.
And we went complete circle on that as well. And Drew, I asked you this before. We are 29 days away from the NFL draft, and we are 2 years away from the draft in Detroit, where Arch Manning will be the first sophomore selected number 1 by the Detroit Lions. And we'll go with that. Not going to happen. Arch Manning won't be eligible unless they change the rules by that point, which hopefully they do. But anyway,
Dan Campbell going to change it.
We are 29 days away from the NFL draft. Who's the number 1 overall pick?
Aidan Hutchinson. Aidan Hutchinson. Yeah.
I'm going to go Evan Neal. I was going to go Aidan Hutchinson if you went Evan Neal, but I'm going to go Evan Neal because you went Aidan Hutchinson.
Yeah, and I think if Aidan Hutchinson's the pick, the Lions don't pick it too. Would be my guess. They're not taking Malik Willis. They're not taking.
How would you feel if they did that?
If they took Malik Willis at 2?
Yeah.
Remember that lady that Jim Brown threw off the balcony? I would jump off the balcony. No, listen, I don't hate Malik Willis. I just think that, like, for a dude that threw 23 touchdowns and 17 picks at Liberty last year is worthy of the number 2 pick. Just my opinion on it. I get the upside in the traits that he has. And I'm not going to draft a safety at 2. Like, I like Kyle Hamilton, who I think is going to slip down boards. If it was me, Kayvon Thibodeau would still be the pick, although I know he's kind of plummeted down draft boards. But I'm still comfortable with that. That's get the defensive end. It's just we're at silly season right now. People are mocking all kinds of crazy people to the Lions. So I think if they have the opportunity to move down, then they're kind of in the position as a franchise where that'd be beneficial to kind of gather a couple more top end picks. Then you have the options to go receiver if you want. You can go different ways with it.
Mm-hmm. How many quarterbacks go in the top 20?
Three.
Wow.
Three.
What three quarterbacks?
Willis, Pickett. The third one's kind of up for debate. Willis and Pickett for sure will be top 12 picks. And then is Sam Howell the guy? Or I think Sam Howell would probably be the third guy. Just with his arm strength. I know he had a down year, but and then I think you see like your Desmond Ritters and Strong, those kind of guys start to come off in the second round. I do think what's going to happen is as soon as we hit 20, there's going to be a string of wide receivers that go and they go fast. That would be my projection as of now. But I definitely think that it could be Sam Howell. I don't see how, you know how it is with quarterbacks, like we talked about it. Like I don't see how Malik Willis and Pickett, Kenny Pickett go anywhere after 12. Because I could see somebody wanting to move up, whether it's Pittsburgh. Also, if Pittsburgh stands pat and Kenny Pickett's there, they're going to take it, in my opinion, because they have nothing. They have Mitch Trubisky. So there's going to be a team that's going to want to jump. Hey, listen, the phone lines are open if you want to call up to 2 and come get Malik Willis. Come get him.
Phones are open in the D, baby. Phones are open in the D. And as much as I want to disagree with you as far as two quarterbacks in the top 12, because I don't think any of these guys is worthy of a top 30.
No, they're not. Pick. They're not. But this is the NFL. Somebody's going to reach. And the other thing is that's understated is these GMs and coaches think that like they can turn water into wine, right? Like they think that they can take a pile of shit quarterback and turn him into Cinderella. And it's just like it doesn't work, right? For a majority of the time, it doesn't work. Mm-hmm. And I just don't think like if you were to turn around and put the draft class from last year against this year, I don't even know who would even go in the first 3 rounds out of this quarterback class. And I think that's sometimes good to kind of do that exercise. Is like, hey, who are these guys this year? Because we always want to overvalue them because they're quarterbacks. But look at last year's class. Are any of these guys better than last year's class was? I don't know.
No. To me, Sam Howell is still the best quarterback in this draft, and that's not a good thing. He's basically a Baker Mayfield light in the way he
with plays. The way better arm. With a way better arm.
I mean, Baker's got a rocket for an arm. People underestimate that. But looking at this total class, like you got Carson Strong, who as far as arm strength and accuracy, maybe the best guy out there, but he's stiff. And everyone wants that mobile quarterback, so that's why Malik is the number one talk. That's why Pickett's up there, even though Pickett, when you watch him, guy doesn't make decisions quickly, and he runs out of the pocket quickly. There's so many hands. Small hands smells like cabbage. Anyway, enough with the Austin Powers. These guys, none of them are worthy of a top 32 pick as far as talent-wise. They're all worth that second-round gander. But you're 100% right in the fact that somebody –
I get it.
I get it too.
Because you look at the way the NFL is going and his skill set, his mobility, his arm strength. The problem is I've watched – there's just so much bad film. And like everybody gets wrapped up over 10 plays, right? Over an entire season. And they say, hey, look at this. Look at what he can do. Which is great. But like, show me the rest of the tape. You don't do that because there's so much bad tape on Malik Willis. And this is at Liberty, right? This isn't like he had bad games in the SEC. Like we have to put it in perspective, not only the quarterback itself, but the learning curve from going from Liberty to the National Football League. He's definitely a guy that needs a city year. And potentially that could be Detroit where he can sit behind Jared Goff, but he is not going to be ready come September.
I'm with you on that. And for those people who are like, oh, well, obviously he's not that good. He went to Liberty. No, he originally went to Auburn.
Correct.
And he got beat out by Drew's favorite quarterback in history. Mr. Bo Nix beat Malik Willis out.
Is Bo Nix back for his 14th year eligibility or what's the deal?
Did he transfer?
I don't know. Did he? How does he have eligibility left?
I mean, I don't think he's been there that as long as it feels like.
It feels like forever.
Anybody got this before I Google it? Bo Nix?
Nobody has inside Bo Nix knowledge, dude. You might be sitting here all
night. Bo Nix did transfer, in fact.
Where's he at?
Oregon.
He went to Oregon?
Yeah. Kyle Anderson with another excellent question. Let's get this one out of the way as we get away from Bo Nix. I have my twins' 1-year-old birthday party this weekend. Quick question: is it acceptable to have more than 6 beers as a host of this party?
Are the IPAs? What are we ABV volume? Where are we at with it? Are these a couple Bud Lights, a little 6 or Bud Lights? Because if you go with the 6 IPAs, you may be a little looser than you need to be at the one. By the way, Kyle's
What's
a
your
good
limit?
friend of
Like,
mine.
what do you feel good at? Like, are you a lightweight? You
No,
pretty
Kyle's not a lightweight. Bush
Bush
Lights. He's
Lights?
not a lightweight.
I think you're fine with Bush Lights.
Yeah, you are. Kyle, happy early birthday to the twins. Kyle's
Yes,
my good guy.
absolutely.
He did beat me in the fantasy championship, which is bullshit. I do want to say he did lose in the semifinals of the NBA. So take that, Kyle. Sucks to be you. But no, hey, happy birthday to the little ones. I think 6 to 8 Bush Lights over the course of the party. But I would put them in a cup. Whether you go red solo, whatever you do with it, I think a cup
Red
is probably
Solo
more
Cup.
acceptable.
I feel
And I mean,
you
who's
up.
coming to the 1-year-old birthday party? Just mad across the street, like in the family? I feel like it all kind of depends. Like, it's not like your 1-year-old kids have tons of friends.
Hey, maybe they do, and God bless you for dealing with 1-year-old twins, man. I can't. That's tough.
His
Kids
first 2
are
kids.
tough.
Those
Oh,
are
your
his first 2
two?
kids.
Woo.
Yeah. He
That's a kick in the
got them
dick.
both out of the way, and he got a boy and a girl. So
Nice.
yeah, good work, Kyle. Yeah, the cup's always a veteran move.
Yeah.
You know what's also wild is off top. My dad retires tomorrow.
Yeah. Congrats to your pops on that.
He's got to work 3 hours tomorrow,
Oof.
and he's done.
Rough last day, but congrats to him on that.
Probably a long ass 3 hours.
Good luck to him in retirement.
Lots of golf.
And this is what we do here, by the way. That's why, for anyone listening or watching this show right now, if you read my kind of synopsis on what the show is going to be, the last thing I wrote was "and ... because Steve,
I just said, dude, just stop there. Just stop there.
We're full coverage on everything. We do say full coverage football show, and that's why we ran down the full timeline and went deep dive into the Deshaun Watson story. And we gave both sides of situations as best we could. And I did try to get someone in the Browns organization on the show for this evening, a female from the Browns organization, but however, I got nothing back from it. And I expected that because I figured someone else would have already got her at this point to really get the feeling on that. And I think the Browns are kind of keeping hush hush, and they don't want anything out right now. And understand that they had their press conference. They had their thing with Nathan Zegura on the Browns radio network today where Deshaun's like, oh, Cleveland's a beautiful city. Deep fans, love you, go Dog Pound. The typical I'm a new player in a city thing. But they all do it, and that's awesome. Fine. Cool. Whatever. Now, there's an important thing happening this weekend. Not only Kyle's twins' birthday party, but Drew, there's something going on this weekend, maybe golf-wise?
Next weekend.
Next weekend, is it? Okay. I'm making sure that I'm understanding, but there's something I heard this week. Is Tiger going to play in the Masters?
Oh, I'm glad you asked. Quick Tiger update. Tiger flew down
Tiger update.
Yeah, Tiger flew in Joey LaCava last week. If you don't know, that's his caddy down to Medalist, which is where Tiger's a member out in beautiful Jupiter, Florida. He was walking the course all week. He took a plane yesterday, which, by the way, plane tracker Twitter is elite Twitter.
It is.
Like, I keep looking at this, like, get a job. Like, what? How do you sit around and track planes all day?
Hang on, time out real quick. Time out. The funny thing about that is we both say that. Meanwhile, every time these people tweet a new plane update, us who are currently working somehow catch it. So
well, I wasn't tracking the plane, though. Tracking the plane itself. Anyway, plane flew out about 8:30, 8:45 from Jupiter, Florida. Actually, Port St. Lucie Airport. Flew into Augusta National. Tiger Woods, Charlie Woods, Justin Thomas practice round. Tiger walked the course yesterday. And so essentially you're not going to hear anything until Friday. I would say sometime 2 to 3 o'clock p.m. on Fridays when you get an announcement, official or not, if Tiger's going to play. Based off recency, the years he didn't play, he didn't announce it till like 5 or 6 p.m. So if you get past the 3 p.m. hour, there's some concerns there. But I expect Tiger to tee it up come Thursday next week.
That's all I needed to hear.
And it'll be freaking ridiculous.
And I'm not going to say the sentence I was about to say. I'm going to stop. But Drew's going to be excited is what I was going to say.
Yes.
I was going to go a little more NSFW for those out there who know what that means, which I had to Google at one point in my life to figure out what it means. But yeah,
that's fair.
Football-wise, back to that real quick. What else you want to talk about football-wise?
I'm trying to think of what do you think of Matt Ryan of the Colts?
I think it's a great move by them.
Because I love it.
I love it.
I love it. I think Matt Ryan's got some left in the tank.
A couple more years at least.
And I think that it's going to be way less stress being able to hand it off Jonathan Taylor. Then
I'd take that job.
I mean, than having Cordell Patterson. Listen, I like Cordell Patterson, but that was one of the
hold on.
underrated
I love
fits.
hearing that. It took years on this show for you to say that you loved Cordell Patterson.
Well, listen, last year was different, right?
It was.
Like last year was way like I feel like I am fine with my assessment of Cordell Patterson because last year he just became kind of like the gadget guy, right?
Mm-hmm.
And he was awesome. But I do think like he leaves Atlanta. Atlanta literally has nobody at wide receiver left after Calvin Ridley, which also happened since I think the last time we did the show. Maybe not. Got suspended.
No, I think that was the last show we did.
Anyway, but now he walks into Michael Pittman. All right, fine. T.Y. Hilton. Is T.Y. Hilton still alive?
Listen, T.Y. Hilton, every time we're like, yeah, he's done.
He'll play 5 games.
He has one game that's phenomenal, and then everyone picks him up in fantasy, starts him, and they realize, oh, yeah, that's why you don't start Ty.
No, but that's all I got is Matt Ryan. I like that Matt Ryan signing in Indianapolis. And I also respect what Chris Ballard is doing out there. Like they realized that Carson Wentz wasn't the move, and the assets they got back for moving Carson Wentz was impressive. And so listen, they said, hey, and this is their 6th quarterback in 6 years. So it just, to me, I like the fact that they're like, hey, we're going to keep swinging. We might keep missing, but we're going to keep swinging. And they're eventually going to get it right because that roster is built to win now.
Yep.
And I think Matt Ryan's going to walk in, and that's going to be a good football team. I could see them winning 11, 12 games, and they'll certainly be in the playoff picture.
Yeah, I think they're obviously the best team in that division at this point. And I was big on Tennessee, but Ryan Tannehill seems to be going downward, and I believe Matt Ryan is going to be an absolute stud in Indianapolis. Now, looking at the rest of the offseason, we got 29 days till the draft. Who knows what's going to happen in the next week? Stay tuned. We'll be back next week, most likely, to talk more football. Who knows, given our schedules. Living the dad life, living the family life. We got stuff changing. That's why we haven't been here the past couple of weeks. But we're building towards the draft. Next week, I'll have my first mock draft up, and we'll get into that. And I probably won't have 2 quarterbacks in the top 12 because I just can't do it yet. But I totally understand why it's going to happen. And I think it probably does because teams need quarterbacks. If you're picking that high, there's a reason you don't have quarterbacks. And we said at the start of the show, along with a couple other things, quarterback's number 1 spot in all of sports. And if we got nothing else to go, stay tuned to Drew's Twitter because he's going to be freaking out come Friday. You said between 2 and 3 p.m.?
Yeah, I expect it anywhere between noon to 3. And then we got some other cool stuff going on. I'm teaming up with Thrive Fantasy app. I'll put this out there. They're doing a bunch of prop bets. You can use the code promotion code approach to deposit match up to $100. We're gonna have a little fun with that heading into the Masters. So yeah, lots of cool things going on. And yeah, you'll know that as soon as the Tiger news becomes available, I'll be on top of it.
We'll just hear him screaming. If you're within a 20-mile radius, I'm sure you're just going to hear the loudest scream ever. And it's going to be damn fun. I hope Tiger does come in because it's going to be great for golf. It's going to be great for sports. It's going to be great to see a legend back on the prowl, especially after the accident, all the injuries he's had. And for anyone who's been a big fan of him growing up, like I know you have, that'll be exciting. So follow Drew at Detroit Dave 7. Give me a follow at Somerville CLE. Without further ado, I think we're getting out of here for the night. Remember, as always, if you live the life you love the life you live. Night, kids.